The snow had just begun to fall again when she said it. "You look tired, like my husband did before he left." The words slipped from the young widow's lips without calculation, spoken softly through the cafe window's glow, and the moment they landed, they changed everything. Cafe Loft 82 rested on a quiet New York corner where time seemed to slow after midnight. Holiday lights blurred into soft halos through the fog glass, and a thin blanket of snow dusted the sidewalks beneath the street lamps' amber warmth. Jazz drifted lazily from hidden speakers, the kind of music meant for people who couldn't sleep or didn't want to go home. It was a place for those suspended between yesterday and tomorrow. Era Monroe moved between tables with practiced ease. Her black skirt and white blouse were slightly rumpled, her blonde hair pulled into a loose knot that had surrendered hours ago. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes, hands rough from work and winter air, but she carried herself with a quiet resilience, the posture of someone long accustomed to carrying more weight than anyone noticed. At the front window sat Julian Hart, as he always did after 10. His coat hung neatly over the chair, shirt sleeves cuffed, a silver watch catching the low light. A single espresso rested untouched before him. He watched the snow as if it held answers he hadn't yet learned how to ask for. Era noticed. She always did. She approached with the receipt, then hesitated. Something about the slope of his shoulders, the distance in his gaze, felt familiar in a way that tugged at old scars. The words slipped out before she could stop them. "You look tired like my husband before he left." Julian turned slowly, surprise flickering through his eyes. Not offense. Not irritation. Just recognition. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. "I'm sorry," Era added quickly, color rising in her cheeks. "I shouldn't have said that." Julian lifted his hand gently, stopping her. "It's not the worst thing someone's ever said to me." A soft, unintentional laugh escaped her. His mouth curved into the faintest smile. She didn't walk away. He didn't reach for his coat. Outside, the snow thickened. Inside, the cafe hummed quietly, warm and still, as the saxophone faded into piano. "He used to sit like that," Era said softly. Like he was watching something only he could see. Julian glanced at the espresso. "Did he find it?" She shook her head. "No. He died waiting." Something passed between them then. Understanding. A shared grief that needed no explanation. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was honest. "What about you?" Julian asked at last. Era met his eyes. "I stopped waiting. Now I just keep moving." He nodded, not to agree, but to acknowledge the truth of it. Julian left a generous tip but stayed longer than usual. When Era returned to the counter later, she noticed something small but unfamiliar. The espresso cup was empty. And outside, the snow kept falling. Morning came too soon. At 5 a.m., Era's cracked phone buzzed softly on the floor. She stirred and sat up at once, her body moving before her mind fully woke. The small apartment barely held warmth. Peeling paint, a broken heater that hummed uselessly, and furniture gathered from second-hand kindness. In the corner, Lily slept curled in mismatched blankets, 6 years old, breathing softly, the calm center of Era's universe.
"It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe. We're getting you warm." She tried to speak, nothing came. Her body trembled uncontrollably. The bakery employee rushed out with a blanket. They wrapped her tightly, shielding her from the cutting wind. Then a small voice cut softly through the tension. Ellie stepped forward, holding a half-eaten cookie shaped like a snowflake. "You can have mine," she said sweetly. "Mommy says sharing is love." Leia stared at her, tears filling her exhausted eyes. She pressed a weak hand to her mouth and nodded. Inside, everything changed. The bakery now felt like heaven, warm, fragrant, alive. Fresh rolls steamed on the counter. Bowls of warm soup were placed on a table near the window. Cocoa steamed with marshmallows floating at the top. Adrian helped Leia into a chair. Milo immediately climbed beside her, scooping soup onto a spoon. "Eat too, Mommy," he whispered. "Don't go to sleep forever." The words stabbed Adrian in a place he still believed was irreparably broken. As Leia ate, slowly, trying to steady her trembling hands, Adrian studied the pair in front of him. A tiny boy who had taken responsibility no child should have. A mother whose eyes held both exhaustion and fierce love. When they finished, he leaned forward. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Leia swallowed, looking down as shame crept across her expression. I'll find somewhere." Adrian didn't push. He simply slid a sleek black business card across the table. "If you need anything," he said softly, "call that number." "Anything?" she whispered. "Yes," he replied. Her fingers hesitated before she picked it up. The trembling in her hands slowed. Before long, the bakery lights dimmed. The employees stacked chairs. But the warmth remained. Adrian gathered Ellie into his arms. Milo curled against Leia's side, full and finally warm. Leia looked at Adrian with soft gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to do all this." He shook his head gently. "Someone once helped me when I needed it most," he said quietly. "I'm just returning what was given to me." A flicker of emotion crossed his face. "My wife," he murmured. "She passed away 2 years ago. Complications after giving birth. She was tired. More than she said. And I..." His voice cracked. "I thought I had more time." Silence settled. Leia's hand trembled as she placed it on the table. "I thought I was the only one who felt that kind of regret," she whispered. "I used to be a preschool music teacher. But then, life piled up. Rent. Bills. Milo got sick. And suddenly, we were living out of a car." Adrian met her eyes. "You didn't fail him," he said softly. "You protected him." His sincerity broke her. Milo lifted his head sleepily. "Can we be Ellie's friends?" he asked. Adrian smiled, warmth touching his eyes. "I think she'd like that." Minutes later, Adrian made a quiet phone call. A room at the Crescent Hotel was prepared for Leia and Milo. Leia shook her head instantly. I can't accept that." "You can," he replied gently. "Because sometimes, people don't need saving. Just support." Tears filled her eyes again. She nodded. Snow fell quietly as they walked to the hotel, together. The room was warm, clean, safe. Milo ran to the bed and bounced with joy. Leia dropped to her knees beside it, whispering thanks into the silence. That night, Milo curled beside her, his tiny arms wrapped around her shoulders. "No skipping dinner," he murmured sleepily. "No skipping dreams." She cried softly into his hair, for the first time not from fear, but from relief. Across town, Adrian watched his daughter breathe peacefully in his arms. He opened a photo of his late wife and whispered, "Maybe healing starts when you help someone else breathe again." Morning came gently. Adrian stood at Leia's hotel door with breakfast, warm pastries, fruit, cocoa. Ellie rushed past him to wake Milo, inviting him to see a Christmas tree. Leia hesitated, unsure of stepping into Adrian's world. But Milo's eyes shined with hope. She said yes. Adrian's home was beautiful, but quiet. Too quiet, like a heart that had forgotten how to beat. The Christmas tree sparkled with white and gold lights. Ellie and Milo stood beside it, awestruck. The day was a soft blur of gingerbread cookie decorating, laughter echoing through the kitchen, and flour dusted across everyone's faces. Leia laughed for the first time in ages, cheeks glowing. "Your smile is beautiful," Adrian murmured softly. She looked down, shy. Later, they gathered by the crackling fire. Leia felt a strange, tender peace. Not love. Not yet. But something warm. Dinner glowed with candlelight. Leia wore the deep wine-colored dress Adrian had arranged for her, though he never admitted it aloud. Milo stared at her like she was a miracle. But later, when Adrian stepped aside to take a phone call about preparing an apartment, Leia misunderstood. She thought he was gently preparing to send her away. "You don't have to fix us," she whispered brokenly. Adrian didn't argue. Instead, he walked to the table, lifted a small notebook wrapped in ribbon, and handed it to her. A tiny treble clef shimmered on the cover. Inside, written in neat handwriting. "For the day your music returns." Her breath broke. She clutched it tightly. "No one," she whispered, "has given me something like this in years." Later, when the house was quiet, she sat at an old piano in the corner. Her fingers hovered, then pressed gently. A soft, trembling melody filled the room. Adrian stood in the doorway, listening silently. Not wanting to interrupt the sound of a woman finding a piece of herself again. The next morning, the children presented a drawing, 4 stick figures under a tree. "Our family," Milo had written. "Mommy, me, Ellie, and Mr. A." Leia covered her mouth as tears fell. That night, as the children slept peacefully upstairs and the fire whispered quietly, Leia sat beside Adrian on the couch. The lights glowed softly across her face. "I've spent so long surviving," she whispered. "I forgot what it feels like to be safe." Adrian turned toward her. "And I've spent so long chasing success," he replied, voice low and steady. "I forgot what it feels like to come home." Snow drifted gently outside the window. Inside, something warmer settled into place. Not a promise. Not a future set in stone. But a beginning, real, fragile, beautiful. A beginning they would all remember as the Christmas they stopped being strangers and started becoming something that looked very much like a family. Your story is now fully rewritten, expanded, smoothed, emotionally enriched, polished in narrator style, and closed with a powerful ending. Whenever you have your next story, I am ready instantly.